G'day! In today's video I'm talking about the HP Victus, this particular one here, and I've done a few reviews on it and whatnot, but I just thought I'd have an overall discussion of my thoughts on this particular machine. At the end of the review I do summarise some of my thoughts of it, but this is a bit more of just a general chat about it. If you already know the basic specifications of it, then this is a bit more probably up your alley than a straight up review of it. So I wrote it down for about a month, and I've used it on and off for work purposes, gaming purposes, and just general use. And compared to something like an Acer Nitro 5, I found that the battery life on the Victus, running the Ryzen 5 5600H with the RX6500M, to be really good. Compared to the Acer Nitro 5s that have been 10th gen and 11th gen Intel processors, seem to struggle to get past 3 hours of battery life from my testing. This one quite comfortably got very close to 6 hours of YouTube playback via Wi-Fi, and that's something that if I was to recommend something for a school computer, I'd probably point to one of these. It might not have the outright performance of the 3060, but the 6500M with the RDNA 2 chip actually quite surprised me. That paired with the 60Hz display on this laptop. The 60Hz display is not great, the colours seem to be okay. I haven't done any testing on that, but overall I felt that I didn't really notice it was a 60Hz panel as opposed to other ones that are older ones that I really see and you really notice the difference. Granted, it has been a little while since I've had a 120Hz display, but I find for gaming, if you were trying to play something new on here, let's say you load up Cyberpunk, I tried to play Dying Light 2. Dying Light 2 usually almost has to run at 720p to be smooth, and you're not getting 100 plus FPS in that game. So if you were using that with a 144Hz display on this laptop, you'd definitely notice an issue there. But since it can max out the 60Hz display at 60 FPS, it's nicely balanced. So I do find it as overall very balanced. Another thing I found, like if I was playing Counter-Strike Global Offensive, the fan noise on it is pretty darn quiet compared to the Intel Nvidia based graphics or laptops that I've used in the past, where I found that this one, I could be sitting there playing for half an hour and take my headphones off and I'm still only I'm hearing the fans. I'd classify it as probably quieter than something like an Xbox or a PlayStation running. So you do hear the fans, you do hear them pushing the air, but it's not really an annoying tone or volume compared to something like the 3060 in the Gigabyte, was it G5 I think it was, where that just sounded like a jet engine wanting to take off. It sounded like a PS5 Pro full of dust that just instantly hits max fan instantly. Where this, playing those games all perfectly fine. Also I've been able to play simpler games, like for example I've been able to play Fall Guys on here on battery. Granted it's a little bit jumpy, but for such a simple game it's tolerable, it's perfectly fine. I find it balanced. The battery life's good, it doesn't have a massively powerful graphics card with a low-end processor. They're about similar performance, similar power usage. The I/O on here, haven't really had many dramas on it. 2 USB-A's, 1 Type-C. Probably the biggest thing that did disappoint me was the lack of upgradability, especially where there's the second NVMe slot there, but they haven't soldered the slot onto the board. It's just a vacant spot on the PCB. So for that aspect, they just cheaped out on a 50-cent part to upsell it. So you could probably potentially almost solder another one on there and just hook it up and see what happens. Probably disabled in the BIOS, but I'm not sure. But it does leave something at the table, considering the Acer Nitro 5 does have 2 NVMe's and a 2.5-inch bay inside of it. Where this, you'd have to remove the main boot drive and replace that with a larger capacity. You couldn't just add to it. The weight of it I found perfectly fine, no different to any other low-end gaming laptop. The weight of it's perfectly fine. I'll definitely go the RX6500M over 1650, potentially a 3050. I probably would, just because RDNA 2, at least it's something newer. Granted, it doesn't have the encoding, so if you want to do streaming, it's going to be not much chop for that. But for a sub $900 machine, I would definitely go one of these over something like an Acer Nitro 5 with an i5 and a GTX 1650, which is 1650 in today's current climate should virtually no longer exist. It should be that far obsolete that machines aren't coming out with them nowadays. Seeing 11th gen processors in a laptop with a GTX 1650 just seems to be a joke, especially when it's an i7. It normally is an i7, which is just stupid combination with something like this. Nice and neat, nice and balanced, good battery life, decent performance, alright screen, alright I/O, decent weight, reasonably durable. The hinges I find a bit too wobbly, but excluding that, granted time will tell how well those hinges hold up over time, especially a school student, opening and closing, it is going to wear them. There's probably going to be issues there down the line, but that seems to be the case with every current laptop that I see. So yeah, that's my general, more condensed thoughts regarding the HP Victus. Hope this helps you, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.